And we're still fighting the Association of Graduates to a degree up there that don't want to accept the MacArthur Society as watchdogs over the traditions and values and history of West Point. And duty, honor, country, that's what it's all based upon. We have an initiative going on at the Pentagon right now called the Duty, Honor, Country Commission that we will look at all the academies and then estimate or decide what these academies need to look like in the future and what they need to abide by. And that's basically getting back to history, understanding how to lead, understand combat, understand strategy, because we have a whole new set of threats out there today. When you look at space, for example, you look at the cyber terrorism that's going on. You look at all these different threats now that we had that we didn't have before. We used to look at land, sea, and air. That was it. Now we got space, cyber, we got bio, and so we've added on maybe three or four different areas of threats that can be garnered in the form of a war against us, threats against us. So it's a whole new ball game. That's why we need new leaders that understand what's going on and make generals that understand what's going on. They're here to protect America, protect American citizens. That's their duty. And so that's what we're working with the MacArthur Society to get back to that. I have General Flynn speaking on September 30th, by the way. I'll send you an invitation to that to speak to the MacArthur Society. He's a great example of an American who sacrificed so many things for the country and continues to be a leader out there. So, anyhow, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard for me because I grew up, in the general's house, and it was always everything Army. And obviously West Point is was he was offered an appointment to West Point when he was an active duty soldier. Didn't think he was smart enough to get through, and they tried to convince him prep school first and then West Point, but he was too young to understand. But so he always lived that within his soul, and his greatest regret of his life to see what West Point's become. The thing about the standards that they have now watered down at West Point, they're trying to make West Point available to a broader cross section of Americans. And the simple fact is, and I know they've tried to make it so everybody, in life gets a trophy, but the simple fact is, I know this from my own life. You and I grew up in the same area, same backyard. I was lower middle class. When we talk about the economies always, going up and down, and back where I come from in Phillipsburg, Osceola, I'm like, we don't feel the impact of economies going up and down. We've been insulated from that because the economy's been in the toilet for 50 years in that area. So, it always just kind of, but here's the thing. There was no easy way, no easy day growing up in terms of trying to accomplish something. And for me, if somebody would have just facilitated the BS they do now in Little League or sports or anything growing up, you would have never been to West Point. I wouldn't have accomplished things in my life because we didn't have to work. We didn't have to grow. We didn't have to overcome. We didn't have to face challenges. And that's what builds a society. And here's the thing. You look at the way God created the planet, and I hate to say it's callous as survival of the fittest, but the reality is that the most qualified people on this earth, prior to this era, were the ones that I guess I would say led the way in the evolution of society and the experience for humans on the planet as we grow and evolve. And I was watching this, and so obviously we continue to climb that evolutionary ladder, I guess you'd say, the talents and intelligence, all these things over time. If we don't allow that, the cream to rise to the top. I just watched a movie the other night called Idiocracy, and it's a goofy comedy, but it shows a guy projected 500 years into the future, and what he ends up is a society, a presidency, a country like this, or a world where the continued dumbing down leads to this completely moronic society that can't solve like their own problems, like just they're trying to water crops and plants with some corporations, not an energy drink, but like Gatorade. and the stupidity. And a guy comes along and says, well, why don't you just use water? You mean like what's in a toilet? It's like, yeah, they think he's nuts. But watching that film, although it's comedy, I'm like, that's exactly where this nation or even the world's headed if we're trying to make it so everybody fits into everything. And look how they've dumbed down our society with the education system today. God love the kids that are coming out of school today, especially out of college. They don't know anything. They can't change a tire. They have no useful information to do anything productive in many cases because of this constant dumbing down and making everybody feel like, well, it's okay to be a D student. You should be proud of yourself that you got a D. It's complete insanity. And I don't know how long it takes to undo it. Maybe Charlie.
Well, it's going to take years, but they're working on it. It's going to take years, Scott, but they're working on it. And they're very much behind education now in America, focusing a lot on skilled training. You don't necessarily need a 4-year college education, that you can make it in this high-tech world today. You can have specific skills. Like when I was in school, I had wood shop. I loved it. Getting back to using your hand, building things. And so I think the young America is being challenged today, but I think for the most part, the younger people are becoming more Christian as a result of what Charlie Kirk has done on the campuses and uh, his uh, his way of connecting to the youth today to think about what they're doing, what they are, what they want to be, and leading a very Christian life. So, we're going through these tremendous changes right now, but I think at the proper leadership at all levels that believe in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and so on, that we're going to prevail. And but we have to fight for it. We just can't sit back. I mean, the good Lord gave us the power of prayer, but He also gave us the power of action. And that's what I tell a lot of people in the religious communities. You can pray all you want to, go to Bible studies, and that's great. I'll give you inspiration, but you got to take action. You got to do something. And that's what Charlie Kirk did in the Spirit of the Lord. He took action.
Well, the Bible says everybody rests on their Christian values and laurels. I'm like, okay, how about not just the parts that you like? How about the part that says faith without works is dead? And that means in modern English, get off your ass and do something. It's like I tell people all the time, if you're sitting back waiting for Christ to drop his feet on the planet and solve all our problems, you're going to be surprised because, he came and he showed us the way. Why would Christ show us the way? So we do nothing? No, you show somebody the way so they now can go on their own. And we just sit back and just think somebody else is going to save us from the mess we've allowed creep up around us. Look, I grew up believing that when I was a kid. I'm got to be saved, right? They tacked this dude on a cross 2,000 years ago so I would be saved. Thank God. And then I'm 14 years old and like, you got to be, you got to become saved or you're not going to get to heaven. Okay. We better do that too. Okay. Now I'm saved a second time. Now, I've said this for most of the stages I've been on. So now I'm told that, Christ's going to come back and save us. I'm like, how many times does Christ have to save us? What point of his whole life? Shouldn't we be doing something?
Yeah.
And, so I push back on my Christian brothers and sisters